Welcome to another episode of A Real Point of View. I'm your host, Greg Morgan. I'm also the real movie guy. We are internet film critics here to try to do what we can to help you find good movies to watch, good movies to enjoy, and good movies to, I don't know, maybe purchase someday and have in your collection. So, joining me tonight are my friends, family, Romans. Give me your countrymen. Okay, that's bad. Um, but
Give
joining
me
me,
your countrymen,
I think it's like is that that's similar to the quote. What is it?
friends, Romans.
Friends,
Lend me your
Romans,
ears.
countrymen, lend me your
Lend me your
ears. I come
ears.
to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The good that men do lives after him. The good is often tarred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar.
Yeah,
Have
like
you
she
Perhaps I
ever
said.
went on too
have you
long.
ever felt so wrong, Greg? Have you? Have you ever? Because I have for you.
Um, when I was six, um, there was a moment, and I wanted to. My mom used to make these shrimp, right? Fried shrimp on Friday nights, because we were celebrating Lent, because it was an Episcopal household, and she'd make these shrimp, right? And like my brothers and sisters used to like, because they were bigger than me and stuff, used to like try to bogart me to get the shrimp because it was really tasty and stuff like that. So one day I stood by my mother while she was making the shrimp, and as she was pouring it out, I iced it. Okay, that's probably not a very good related story.
And now, The Shape of Water.
Yeah,
I
this is
thought
the
that was a good.
perfect time
Was
for the
that
shape
was
of
was
water.
that a good segue? That was a good
I
segue.
think, well, it was a segue.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Oscar season is upon us.
Oscar season is upon us. So, ladies and gentlemen, my cohorts, Miss Karen D, the movie maven herself, and Mr. Stephen C, the man who doesn't pick a bad film.
Allegedly.
And we're gonna test that out here real soon because Greg's got 2 movies to watch.
Okay, so as as
We started out so well, and now we're just like spiraling downward.
I know, I love it.
kind of like the Oscars, really.
Kind of like what the
Um,
Oscars are doing. Holy Moses!
have you seen the nominations? When they finally came out, I was really interested, and I was, kind of chomping at the bit to try to see what's the movies, and then the movies came out. I was like, oh, it's just like the Golden Globe, and it's didn't get any better mostly.
Can we not? Can they just nominate less people?
Well, you
Well,
know
they
what?
they shifted
Like,
to nominating more people because they said that they weren't nominating enough people. There weren't
but
enough, like they
there's only
weren't.
there's only 5 nominations for actor in a leading role. There's only 5 nominations for actress in a leading role. Only 5 for supporting actor. Only
But
5 for
10 for
actress,
10 for picture.
and 10 for pic. Yeah, but and only 5 for cinematography. You're telling me you only 5 for cinematography, costume
Well,
design, directing. Only 5. Only 5 for directing. You
I
got
think.
10 for best picture, but you only got 5 for best for directing.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, frankly.
Well, I guess
That's
they
what we're here to
figured that.
discuss.
I guess they figure if some of the people in some of the situations were different, then there would be less. You know what? I succeeded in trying to be logical and not being logical. I succeeded.
Oh God, please stop succeeding.
Just like the Oscars.
Just like the Oscars. Okay, so let's do
No,
this.
let's talk about the Oscars.
Let's do that. So, Karen, since this was your brainchild, what are you thinking about? What was exciting about the Oscars for you so far with regard to these nominees? Is there anything exciting? Is it a good film that's exciting you, or is it a good actor, director? What's exciting you about the Oscars so far? We know the Oscars are coming up in March, but what is it about these nominees that is exciting for
Well,
our
what's
listeners?
well, what's exciting to me. There's been a focus on diversity and the lack thereof with regard to Oscars, and I think this is the 90th year for the Oscars. Actually, so this is going to be a big celebration because I guess the first Oscar award ceremony will be 90 years ago come this March. And I'm very excited at the diversity that I'm seeing in terms of the nominees.
Okay.
Greta Gerwig was nominated as Best Director for what was she nominated for? Lady Bird.
Right.
You know, and you don't usually see women in the Best Director category.
That's true.
Well, I have to be honest, I'm most excited about Jordan Peele because he was nominated 3 times for Best Original Screenplay for Get Out, for he's a producer of Get Out, so he's nominated for Best Picture. And I can't remember the third nomination, but he
Wasn't it
has three.
directing?
No, it's not. No, I thought it was director, but I'm sorry, it is director. Duh.
Yeah.
Yes, director. That's awesome. This young man, African American, nominated in 3 different categories. I don't know if that's ever happened before. I don't think that's ever happened to an African American before in the
Oh
history of
no,
the
no,
Oscars.
no! This is a historic moment regarding that. Yes.
So I'm thrilled about that, and I'm really happy about Mudbound getting nod for best song. Also, Mary J. Blige getting an Oscar nomination for best supporting actress. And
Now,
I'm really excited about Coco Coco being nominated
She's
for
calling it.
for best animated feature. That's just a lovely, absolutely lovely film, as we talked about last week. Um,
and it's got to be a rarity to
I mean,
have
2 weeks ago.
got to be a rarity to have a woman whose primary career has been a being a virtually a music mogul in Mary J. Blige. I mean, she's known for her music. She's known for her singing and gutsy lyrics. And here she is in this film. I didn't even recognize her at first, by the way. And then here she is in this film, and she does a wonderful job in this movie. I think she deserves the nomination, if nothing else. But yeah, this is not even in her wheelhouse, and yet she's really had done a wonderful job. Now I've seen her acting in other things. I think she was in the Nativity, Black Nativity. She was in that, which was a musical, but a very small role in that. But this was powerful, very good role.
And I have to say, I also don't want to, leave this without mentioning the historic nomination of Rachel Morrison for Best Cinematographer. African American woman has never ever been nominated for cinematographer. That's happening this year for Mudbound.
Now, what's interesting to me is the nominees for the different uh, acting categories and in correlation with the movies that are being nominated. Um, I find it very interesting to have these different nominations, i.e., in uh, some of these films, and yet the movies themselves aren't nominated. Like Denzel Washington is nominated, but Roman J. Israel is not.
Okay, and there's a reason why that movie wasn't nominated.
Well, my point is, it's just interesting. A lot of times you'll see people nominated and their movies are nominated, and so it makes a little sense because you're getting director or like last year, Denzel Washington getting nominated for more than one thing, and then Viola Davis also getting nominated, and the film getting nominated. Those kind of things is what I'm looking at, and I don't see a whole bunch of that here.
Right. That's
So,
true. I
But it
mean,
is on the actress side.
say again.
I said, but it is on the actress side. Like the actors, like the leading actors were. Well, no, it is on both sides.
Yeah,
Like I
but this,
Tanya and Denzel, or Margot Robbie and Denzel are the only two for leading actor and leading actress that aren't a part of the Best Picture. That's interesting.
right. Right. And Tom Hanks did not get nominated for The
Uh-huh.
Post,
yeah, which was
but
interesting.
but Meryl Streep, Yonners, did. And I'm like, maybe she was good. I don't know. I'm so tired of her being nominated. It's like past a cliche.
Right, but like all the
Maybe.
money in the world didn't get nominated, but yet Christopher Plummer did get nominated, which is great because he's such a great actor anyway. But you
Right.
know, um, so I mean, it's just interesting to me. That's all.
It
Um,
is interesting.
Now, I'm a really big fan of Octavia Spencer,
Mm-hmm.
and I did see The Shape of Water. Didn't think it was supporting role esque for
You mean you
her.
don't think she deserved the nomination?
I love her as an actress, but I don't know. It didn't her acting in the film wasn't um, exemplary to me. It was just average.
Hmm.
Her role was it had pivotal moments, I guess, but it wasn't truly pivotal to the story really. Um, so I don't know. Supporting actress, that was a stretch for me for her for that movie. Now again, I'm a big fan, so it's not that. It just didn't hit me. I guess the
Mm-hmm.
role that hit me the most is in the male category for supporting roles. Actor in a supporting role was that of Sam Rockwell.
Oh, for three billboards
Oh my goodness.
outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh my goodness. That dude deserves this award really bad.
And he
Yeah,
won the Golden Globe for it. So.
yeah, he did. But and after seeing the movie, I could see it. I see it.
Hmm.
What about Richard Jenkins in The Shape of Water? He went to our college. You're not giving a shout out to him?
I know he went to our college, but is that why we should give
Again,
him?
I
Is
feel
that
like I feel like he's not the supporting actor that should be nominated in this movie.
me too? And I
I feel like
and
Michael Shannon did such a much better job in this movie playing the character he needed to play.
and here's the thing: it's not about Iwu. It's about whether he did, and it's not that he's not a stellar actor. I like him as an actor too. It's just his role in this film. It was necessary to get certain things done in the film. That's pretty much all it is. And he's actually our narrator for the film. But even still, with that being said, his role it was needed, but it wasn't pivotal. It wasn't strong. It wasn't a strong character in this film. And I agree with Steve. Um, I can't think of the actor's name. What was it again, Steve?
Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon. He's played some awkward roles. He's even played Elvis recent past in a film. And then he played he a lot of times he played in the early part of his career. He's been playing bad guys mostly, and that didn't change this time. But this time, he went from bad to mean to ornery to cruel, without even changing his facial expression. I mean, this guy was. I thought he was much more pivotal in this movie than Richard Jenkins. So I think he should have got the nod. To be
What
honest with you.
about Woody Harrelson in Three Billboards? Woody Harrelson is an amazing actor, but nobody's talking. I mean, his performance is not being talked up much at
Well,
all.
I'll tell you, I saw this movie too, and although I liked him in this film, and it's part of his character in this film that makes this film even that much more um, a wild ride, but it still pales in comparison to uh, Sam Rockwell. And Sam Rockwell and he were friends in this film, and because Woody Harrelson's the chief of police, and Sam Rockwell is just one of the officers, deputies under him. And Sam Rockwell just stole this movie on that side of things. I mean, don't get me wrong. Um, Frances McDormand, she was the rock of this film, but the support to her rock was Rockwell. No, no, hands down. Woody
Hmm.
Harrelson, maybe. I mean, I liked him in the film. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he should have even got that nod either. I think if I look at the because we've got Willem Dafoe in this category, for
For
actors
the
in a
Florida
supporting role.
Project.
Woody Harrelson, Richard Jenkins, Christopher Plummer, and Sam Rockwell. And of the films I was able to see so far in my mind, it's Sam Rockwell all the way.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about the Best Picture nominees.
Okay.
I mean, we have 10 of them, I think, or something. One, two, three, four, five, six,
Six,
seven. Well, nine.
nine.
Anyway, so the Best Picture nominees are Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So, Steve, let's go to you. What do you think? Who do you think, or which picture do you think is sort of leading going at this point in terms of the likely winner in that category?
Um, of course, Lady Bird at the Golden Globes won Best Musical or Comedy, which how that movie was a musical or a comedy beyond me, but whatever. Um, and
Right.
Three Billboards won. I feel like Three Billboards probably has the same edge that it had. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Get Out being like a dark horse, being the dark horse movie. A lot of people really like Lady Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was not a fan, but there's a huge amount of talk for it. For some reason, the Phantom Thread has been getting more attention now than it was when it was coming out,
And
which
it's
is
kind
really
of a
weird.
and it's
I've,
kind of a
I've been
late bloomer too, isn't it?
it's a late. There's more and more commercials that are coming out about it,
Yeah, I
which
know.
is
It's
really
like
weird.
it's gotten like a second life or something.
Yeah, somehow having Darkest Hour and Dunkirk both in the category is interesting.
Right, because it's the same era, same time frame. Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like Darkest Hour is only carried really by Gary Oldman,
Hmm.
where
Uh,
Dunkirk is situationally carried.
I agree.
I I thought there were some really good performances, but Gary Oldman is just so
Hmm.
just riveting that you know, I think I mean my view is that I don't think Dunkirk is likely to win Best Picture, but I
Hmm.
think Gary Oldman is a shoo-in to win Best Actor.
Yeah, I feel either Three Billboards, Get Out, or just based on attention that I think it's been getting, Lady Bird might.
Hmm.
Those three are the ones that I think. If it were me, it would be Three Billboards again
Hmm.
after winning in the Golden Globes too. But the Oscars doesn't like to copy.
Well, Gregory, what about you? What picture do you think is likely to win, and which picture would you like to win?
Well, I agree with Steve. I think Three Billboards. It's again, I'm liking the majority of this film as I watched it. I'm again one of those situations where I do not like the ending of the film, but
Hmm.
that doesn't cloud the rest of the film like some of the endings do in other pictures. I think this is a pretty good movie standing on its own throughout the majority of the film, so that is probably the front runner. I did like Get Out, but I actually found it to be um, certain parts of it were cliche to me, and not differ. It didn't differentiate itself enough in those moments. But as a movie as a whole, I like the movie as a whole. Dunkirk probably not strong enough to stand up there, and I was actually quite surprised it ended up in the nominations. To be honest with you, however, as Steve alluded to, it is more situational regarding that part of World War II, and ironically, in the Darkest Hour, one of Churchill's main statements that he states when he's trying to get people to understand what they need to do in order to win this war is echoed throughout Dunkirk. Also,
Hmm.
it's the same situation because again,
Well, they
Dunkirk is
happened around the same time,
oh, not just that; it's the British Army.
right?
So it's even more so. This is part of the battle cry and the motivation for these people, including the people who come in to rescue the servicemen. from the nearby area, the towns, to using regular shipping boats and fishing boats and things like that.
Right.
Um, but I think Gary Oldman's performance in Churchill was really stellar.
You
There
mean
was a,
Darkest Hour?
I apologize. Thank you. In the Darkest Hour was really stellar. I think there's another movie out there that's a Churchill movie that came out in the early part of 2017. Also, I'd like to see the comparison between the two. But in this case, yeah. Okay, so I think Billboard should win. I think the movie that will probably give it its run for its money in this order would probably be Darkest Hour, Get Out. Um, the I haven't seen Phantom Thread, but the trailers as they're coming out are more and more intriguing. I actually like the premise of the film, so we'll see. But
What
I
is
don't
the
think
premise of the film?
the guy who's the dress the designer, which is uh, oh my god, I can't think of the man's name.
Daniel Day Lewis.
Thank you. I was going to say the guy who's retiring. Okay, Daniel Day Lewis. Uh, his muse is this woman. He doesn't know why, but this woman intrigues him as this model, and so he starts designing things around her, and he starts to fall in love with her. And the problem is that she's a human being and she's a woman, and she's not a muse. She's not a um, um, just an inspiration. She's much more has many more levels than that. But he's not getting. He's in love with her because of what inspires him, not because of who she is. And that's where the conflict comes in, and that's what this movie's about. The conflict in their relationship.
Hmm.
It actually
Oh,
looks
okay. Well,
good.
I mean, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it actually seems pretty good. So,
Hmm.
yep, I'm with Steve on Three Billboards, and then maybe Darkest Hour and Get Out are about the same for me.
I mean, if it was, I would love to see Get Out win just because I do. I mean, I guess I am more of a fan of the movie than either one of you two. I think it was very original. I thought it was a really insightful sort of, uh, what kind of a mixture of parody and sarcasm and, and commentary on modern life. And so I would love to see it, but that said, I don't think the picture's going to win. It doesn't. There's no way that's going to happen unless hell freezes over or something. Um, I mean, I think probably Three Billboards or The Shape of Water are the most likely to pull that category out. Guillermo del Toro's getting a lot of attention too,
Mm-hmm.
and I could easily see some of the Academy members, especially if the older ones kind of hold sway in this category, saying, let's give a tip of the hat to Guillermo del Toro because his body of work is so awesome, and he's extremely well known, he's extremely well respected, but we haven't given him that particular Oscar yet. So either, I mean, if The Shape of Water doesn't win for Best Picture, I think he might be relatively likely to win for Best Director.
Hmm. Now, have either of you seen The Shape of Water?
No, it looks too weird.
Yes, I have seen it. And
Okay,
I do. Oh, go ahead. No.
all I was going to say was I've seen it also. So, what's your opinion about it, Steve?
I really enjoy it. Yes, it is weird, but even if you don't, care for the ending, it is a complete movie. It is a complete movie. It doesn't get off base at any point in time, in my opinion. The acting is good, and the interaction between um, the creature and our main protagonist is very interesting and very well done.
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that really draws you into the movie and makes you feel for the characters as you're watching it. And
Mm.
their interactions are, she does an amazing job portraying the character and the uniqueness that she has to portray. And I mean, it's very very close that she could win Best Actress this year, in my opinion.
Okay, and as I alluded to, I too have seen the film. I think Sally Hawkins is stellar in this movie, and her reactions, her mannerisms, I thought were spot on. Um, I actually like this film too, but again, had a really hard time with the ending. Not the very end. There was like an area, a section prior to the ending, that goes into a fantasy mode. I think as the fantasy starts, it's okay, but then once it got into the true essence of the fantasy, that's where it lost me. Um, and to me, it was more of a farce at that part, in that part, as opposed to being relevant enough to be in the film. If it was on the cutting room floor, I'd have been good because the ending itself I thought was good. So not the very end, but near the end. But as movie as a whole, really enjoyed the movie, and I thought again Sally Hawkins was excellent. Um, whether she would win, it would probably be truthfully between her, McDormand, and Ronan from Lady Bird. I think that's who's really the ones that we have to watch and see who might get the Oscar. But Sally Hawkins definitely should be there. She should be
So,
nominated.
so you don't think Meryl Streep will just like win for the post?
I'm not against Meryl Streep as an actress. I think she's a good actress, but I too think that she gets nominated probably if not every year, every other year. It feels like, and so um, I think the other women's performances were stronger, and so therefore I think they have more of a chance of winning. Not that she didn't do a good job in the post. I just think the other ladies that I aforementioned did a stronger job in their portrayals in their films.
Well, I think Margot Robbie was really good in I, Tanya.
Hmm.
Um,
You know what? I tried to watch that movie.
what do you mean you tried?
It wasn't doing that great for me.
Oh, I really like this movie. I watched it. I began to watch it just kind of like for the heck of it, thinking,
Right.
"Oh my God, I'll just have this on for noise because this is like trash movie." And then I was like, from the beginning, I was like, "Wow, this is really interesting." And then it just, I guess.
But
Well,
I'm gonna say,
I guess it means that obviously my opinion was even more. Karen will be back momentarily, ladies and gentlemen.
there she is.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having I don't know what's going on with my technical issues because my computer just cuts out for no apparent reason. But anyway, I was very surprised at how riveting the story was. And as an ice skating fan, um,
Uh-huh.
who watched Tanya Harding and I very much remember the episode with Nancy Kerrigan and the fallout from that and Tanya Harding doing the quad and all it just kind of brought all that back and I just thought it was I mean it's just an amazing story. I mean it's just amazing that Tanya Harding got anywhere near an ice skating rink, let alone the Olympics, given her background.
Right.
So yeah, and I think Allison. I'm not an Allison Janney fan, but she was good and as playing the mother.
Yeah, and good is the parentheses. That one was horrible.
Oh yeah.
If indeed that is what Tanya Harding had to go through in her life, wow.
Well. they preface the movie by saying we're not exaggerating anything.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing. That's what was sad to me. I'll be honest. I watched probably anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour of the film,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as Oscar is concerned, I really guess I wasn't seeing that, but it was interesting at points, especially if this is truly, because I kept thinking to myself, if this is truly how her life was, wow, that's pretty sad, because that was tough. But I wasn't overly riveted by the acting except for Janny. I thought she played a woman who was cold, callous, crude, rude, um, opportunist. I mean, I don't know. I could keep going for a long time about this lady in a negative vein, and yet somebody could really be like that is just sad to me. But yet, at the same time, they say that's how it really was. So that's just a sad continence to a person's life. But as far as the film is concerned, I just wasn't overly impressed with and that's just my opinion.
Hmm.
I get it.
Well, I don't.
And that's
No, I
okay.
do. No, I do. I get it. Well, let's talk about. Well, I just want to mention animated features because I just want to rant once again about the ridiculous inclusion of the Boss Baby as a nominee. I mean, seriously, people, really.
Hey, Steve, did you see the Boss Baby?
I did not.
Okay.
After y'all's basic destruction of the movie, um, the last time we were together, I felt that seeing this movie would be a crime against myself, and I just couldn't do it. And I'm an Alec Baldwin fan. I
Yes,
like
See,
it
Alec
would have
Baldwin,
been a crime.
and I love Alec Baldwin, but I love how it's the exact same five.
Yeah,
oh, it
as the
is.
Golden
Yeah.
Globes, the exact same five.
There's
You're right.
I'm trying to think, like, because Breadwinner I never saw trailers for, and Loving Vincent I never saw trailers for, but I saw plenty of trailers for Coco, Ferdinand, and Boss Baby, and I'm like, really? There was nothing else.
Well, I'm gonna sit here, and this is gonna be tough for me. Um, really tough for you, Steve. So I apologize up front. Um, I saw Coco. Oh my goodness, that was wonderful, Karen. You were right. It was totally the bee's knees.
Yep.
That is if you give a movie 100% as the best, this was 102%. Easy, easy. I saw Boss Baby too, and there's no reason it should be up on this board at all, especially retrospect to Coco. I think Coco's a front runner, and I think it's not going to get taken down. This was such a complete film. I had no true understanding of the Festival of the Dead until I saw this movie.
Yeah,
I
me
had
too.
no, yeah, and I had read about it in history books a little bit, and I was like, oh, whatever. And this movie gave me such a clear understanding and such a now emotional connection to this film. And the character, the young man in this film, was so genuine in his feelings, that you can't not like this movie. And I thought
It's
the
really all right.
skeletal people was going to give me a problem. Once I got into it didn't even take long either. Once I
Right.
got into the beginning of the film and started to understand what they were doing, what the festival truly was supposed to invoke, I was there. I was with it throughout the whole film. And then it does all these cool things. It gets you an understanding of this. You understand the festival more, and then you get a mystery at the same
Right.
time.
And then you get a then you get a murder mystery at the same
Well,
time.
I wasn't going to tell him it was murder, but yeah, you get a mystery. Oh, now you know. Now you know. Spoiler alert.
I didn't say
Spoiler
who.
alert.
I didn't say anything about who was murdered, but it
We
is
Doesn't
a murder
know.
doesn't matter.
mystery.
I
Well,
didn't even know that
well,
was a
we
thing.
well we know it's the festival of the dead, but we didn't know how they all died.
Yeah.
And we still
Aha.
don't know how they all died.
Karen, you know what that sounds like? A liar.
But even
Whatevs.
but with the mystery that's not quite a mystery now. No, I'm just kidding. With the mystery in this film, it took you to another level after
Right,
that. And so
right.
now, you understand the importance about family. You understand the importance about keeping people's memories alive. You
And
understand
your
the importance
dreams.
about your dreams, how you, what helps you, the environment you're around that actually truly does have such an impact in what you do in your future,
Mm-hmm.
and how mistaken identity is easy, but what's reality is hard. In this film, you see all that. This film takes you to so many different emotions, so many
And trying to
different
find your
levels.
place in the world too, which is, a constant. What is your place in the world? How do you define your place in the world? What are the things that help you define that? And the main character is a kid, but he's still, still has questions and hopes and dreams and things like that. And yeah, I really, really love this movie. I would love to see it win, although I've heard some really good things about Loving Vincent too.
Yeah, the
It's
animation
about
is really good.
and it's really about Vincent van Gogh, and the paintings of Vincent van Gogh were used to sort of create the story and the picture called Loving Vincent. So that's unique. Ferdinand sounds really adorable and cute. I kind of hope it doesn't win because it's just not that cute and funny isn't good. It's just that Coco was cute and funny and just substantial.
Hmm.
So to me, it's like my tip of the hat would go to Coco, um, with Loving Vincent coming in second place, maybe.
Absolutely.
But I really hope that no one associated with the Boss Baby gets anywhere near the stage at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion when they have the Academy Awards. I really hope not, because that movie does not belong in this group.
Yeah, to me, Coco's the front runner. I haven't seen Ferdinand. I've seen a lot of trailers for it, and although it does seem warm and fuzzy, it doesn't compete. Like Karen said, there's more substance. It's a much more mature theme, but not so mature that it can't be understood by a young person. So this young person is I love this kid. I just love this kid. I loved his defiance, um, but respectfully so,
Mm-hmm. Right.
um, and his love for his family. You find later in the film that his love for his family, no matter what he truly wanted for himself, it didn't surpass that his family mattered more,
Mm-hmm.
and his family in seeing that, understanding that, gave him even that much more impetus to find his dream and follow his dream. So this is just a whole big life in a film that, um, I think this film conquers it. It was just one of the best stories out there. I really enjoyed it.
I love to, you brought up a good point, Gregory. The kid in this movie was not like this typical smart alecky kid who's, just is always smarter than all the adults in the room and always has some sort of wisecrack or comeback or something like that. And to me, that's the other thing that just sort of sets this apart, because the movie wasn't, sort of like I said 2 weeks ago, it wasn't a top-down view of what an American thinks Dia de los Muertos might be like. Um, it was more from the standpoint of, you know, somebody somebody in Mexico looking back, and from that vantage point. And and the kids, it's not about being the smartest, smarter than all the adults. And I mean, it's not even based in reality. I mean, kids are supposed to be kids. They're not supposed to be smarter than adults. I mean, there's wisdom and smarts that come with experience that you simply can't have as a child, simply because you haven't been alive long enough. And you can see that in this picture, and I really like that, as opposed to what passes for child characters and so many other movie vehicles, especially. They know everything. It's like, why even bother growing up?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
be a child, you know.
yeah. And going back again throughout the film, no matter what his his, his want was, and as we consider that being selfish sometimes, but he just had a dream. It was something that he wanted to do. Um, he did things so that it wouldn't take away from his family. He did things that were respectful, despite him wanting to do something else.
Right.
Um,
And
and
it's
I
really
think that's
close to
really
like
the
his
good
great
thing.
grandmother too.
Yep,
I mean, he was probably closer to her than
the
his.
grandmother.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's just an all around good movie. Boss Baby, it was entertaining, but nothing like this. It didn't have anywhere near the substance, like you said, Karen. I agree with you. Um, and although I think visually, Vincent Van Gogh looks like a very interesting film because of how the animation moves and how the pictures actually come to life. Vincent Van Gogh's paintings come to life. Um, but I don't know about. I only saw a little bit of it. It just wasn't. It didn't. It didn't really catch me like Coco did. So I'm thinking Coco's the deal. So what else are we going to look at here, Karen? That our viewers need to understand and or know.
Well, I'd say we can talk about what isn't showing up here.
Hey, Karen,
Um,
I don't know if you can. Steve, are you hearing any feedback?
I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. It sounds like you're in a bad auto tune. Like there's
who,
static.
me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could,
it
something
sounds
you
like
have to
there's static.
adjust.
Um, hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it does sound staticky.
Now I sound staticky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. It literally just happened mid speech.
Yep.
Um, and is there? Well, I don't know. I don't know what to
Um,
do.
Try to see if you can. Excuse us for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't you see if you can turn it off and then turn it back on?
I
If
just
that
did
works.
that.
Maybe unplug. Maybe. Go for it.
Okay. Hello.
Much better.
Much better.
Oh. Okay.
Sweet.
Anyway. Why don't we talk about? I mean, are there any movies that you've? Let's talk about, like, in terms of. Are there any movies or performances that you think should have been recognized that aren't here on on the list of nominees?
Well, I have two. I have an actor, and I have a movie that didn't get nominated, but I thought the acting in the film by this actor was really stellar. And probably one of the reasons why it didn't get nominated is because a lot of movies like this are not really seen as they're action uh, films that have a lot of scenes and sadly a lot of violence, but um, the superhero movies tend to not be in this realm at all. haven't been. And one of the movies I thought was really a good movie, um, which although it denotes different comic book figures, it denotes them in a situational time and a situational essence that wasn't so superhero like. It's and the movie's Logan,
Oh,
um, with uh, um, Hugh Jackman. I think Hugh Jackman's performance, and a lot of people are really touting Hugh Jackman in his portrayal um, is it P.T. Barnum
yes, in The Greatest
in The
Showman.
Greatest Show uh, on Earth, and
It's
uh,
The Greatest Showman.
thank you, Greatest Showman, excuse me. But I really thought he did more than a great job in Logan, and me being a very good fan, a big fan of the character, which is the Wolverine. To watch him take that from the early parts of the films leading up to this particular film, as far as the Marvel universe and the X-Men films, I thought this movie was firstly aptly named Logan. It wasn't superhero this, it wasn't superhero anything. It was Logan, and his uh, the things that happened in this film, even the ending, even making this hero very vulnerable in the film. And Hugh Jackman also played two characters in the film. I just thought he did such a good job of it that I felt everything that was going on with this character and those are characters around him. I felt everything that was going on with Professor X in this film. Um, Not a film that would get nominated. I think it should. I thought it was a good enough film to get nominated, and the acting, Hugh Jackman did such a good job in that movie. So for me, that's what I would have loved to have seen. But I know it's like we were talking about earlier, films that you know is not going to necessarily get the award. Well, it wouldn't have got the award probably either. Didn't get nominated, but I thought it should have got nominated, and I thought it was good enough for that. What about you, Steve?
I did think Logan was a really amazing movie. I thought it was, for a hero movie, it was very much a heartstring puller, and it was very tragic through the whole movie.
Right.
I thought Patrick Stewart did an amazing job playing the version of Professor X he had to play, and it was it was sad.
It was
It
heart
was really
wrenching, like you
sad,
said.
and it wasn't sad like it wasn't sad like it was a bad movie,
Right.
and it
Emotionally
was it
sad.
was it was emotionally sad, and it did everything that it needed to do, and it portrayed everything about the character you needed to see, and you really felt how long his life had actually been in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a guy now, based on his character, that literally has was born before the Civil War
Right.
and had lived from the Civil War up to this point that is years after, what we would naturally call, our time, what we live in, the time we live in. I mean, we're easily like probably 50 years,
Right.
give or take. And you see it on every part of him now that his regenerative factor isn't coming into play as much anymore, and he's starting to really get true injuries, and he's starting to get old, and you feel it throughout the entire movie. This unstoppable, indestructible character is falling apart right in front of you.
Right. No
So,
longer could his regenerative factors be useful because of the skeletal frame that he uh, had been forcibly given. So yeah, yeah, it's a tragic film, and you know it. And then you see the demise. You just don't hope it's going to happen, but it's inevitable. So yeah, that for me, Karen. If you're asking again to just to reiterate, Logan and Hugh Jackman would have been nominated in respective categories.
Oh, okay. Well, some people are saying that Wonder Woman should have been nominated.
Hmm.
Um, I I enjoyed Wonder Woman. I was happy to go to the movies to support it. I don't think it belongs in the best picture category. That said, I thought it was a good I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was a great movie.
Right.
I didn't think it tread any new ground in terms of characterizations or anything. I mean, the casting of Gal Gadot
Mm-hmm.
as Wonder Woman, I mean, she certainly looks the part and she acquitted herself, well. I mean, no clunkers there. And then, and I just lost who the co-star was. Chris
Oh,
Chris
Pine.
Pine.
it's fine. Yep.
Right. And Chris Pine was, again, the casting of Chris Pine as the colonel or the whoever, the pilot, the guy,
Yeah. I think it was like
um,
a captain, but anyway.
the one guy in the movie, other than than the crooks, was was also good. And I mean, there no big faults there. And I love the fact that a woman helmed this movie, because women normally are not involved in helming these types of movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly stands the test, it certainly can stand toe to toe with all the other superhero movies that men direct, and it's better than quite a few of them. And I mean, I'm looking at you, Superman, Man of Steel. I'm looking at you, Batman versus Superman. You know, I mean, so yeah, the Wonder Woman was way better than those movies. Still not great though. I would say it was good.
Yeah, it was good, and I enjoyed it probably for similar reasons. And Batman versus Superman, the best part of that movie was Wonder Woman, and um, Man of Steel was boring.
Oh my
Um,
god,
but I
so
think,
boring.
but I think because of how DC Comics, which is what all of these are characters from, they're trying to get themselves into that same ballpark or similarity that Marvel has in their universe, and they're so far behind that. But at the same time, Wonder Woman is a happy spark, we'll say. But I also saw the Justice League movie, and it was okay.
I didn't hear
And
great things about that movie either. In fact, I
but
heard it was very disappointing.
it was. But guess what? The best part of the movie was.
Wonder
Superman.
Woman.
I
It was
I was
actually
gonna
Superman.
I was gonna say most of it was early on in the film. It was Wonder Woman,
It was
and
literally
later on
two
in the
thirds
movie,
Wonder Woman, one third Superman.
and Superman was. But see, here's the thing: Superman was given to us as what we thought Superman was in the comic books, not like that boring dude that was in that other movie.
Oh my god.
Same guy, but boy, did he act like the Superman that we thought he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Man of Steel. That was just like, oh my god, what a waste of film.
At no given time, unless you're talking about an actual young, literal Smallville teenage Superman, can you make Superman not be confident?
Right.
That is the problem with Man of Steel. That is the
Yep.
problem with Justice or not Justice League. That is the problem with Batman versus Superman. At given points in time during the movie, not necessarily given points in time, as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
Superman doesn't seem confident in his abilities, in his ability to be the person he wants to be, in the ability to make the decision that needs to be made. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
Superman's killed a lot of people. In the comics as a whole, Superman has, and not people, but aliens, foreign forces, uh, different monstrosities, and things of that nature. Superman has taken the time and got the job done, and has basically killed in order to preserve the Earth, the planet, somebody he cares about, the Justice League, whoever it happens to be. But he has tried to avoid it as much as possible, even, basically punching someone into submission. That is what Superman has done. But he has never not had confidence in his ability to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think they
that's
were
the
trying
problem.
to channel Christopher Reeve Superman when they did Man of Steel with Henry Cavill on
Mm-hmm.
some level. And because Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent wasn't confident.
Mm-hmm.
But Superman was, Christopher Reeve Superman was. And, they were trying, they also just created, I love the Christopher Reeve Superman because he just seemed so human. So that was cool to me. Henry Cavill just came off as, unfortunately, and it's not, he's a really good actor,
Yes.
but what they had him doing in Superman, he came across like a cardboard, like he was some sort of shadow just sort of walking through different scenes, and nothing compelling or interesting or engaging at all, no charm, just kind of one dimensional and flat. I was very disappointed, and I really was, because I really like Henry Cavill as an actor, and I thought Man of Steel would be awesome, and Amy Adams, she's awesome, but both of them were wasted in that movie.
Yeah, and like Steve and I were alluding to before, at the latter part of the Justice League, that was the Superman that I remember. Even him greeting his mother in the film made me was remnant of what I thought Superman and his mother's relationship was. And after that, how he acted with Lois, how he acted with his fellow Justice Leaguers, that made sense. That was Superman to me.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is a continuation into the next phase of Superman, because there's a Superman 2 movie coming out, then yeah, I want to see that Superman. That's the Superman and I was expecting. So
Mm-hmm.
if that comes to fruition, then I'm gonna be happy. But still, they're way behind Marvel. Still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
true.
they're way behind.
Well,
And
let's
I
do.
think one thing that's truly hurt them, and one thing that they could have been a little bit more ahead of, is if they'd have started by integrating everything that they wanted to do through the TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Every single DC, from DC Legends of Tomorrow, from Supergirl, Green
Arrow,
Arrow, Flash,
Flash.
all
Mhm.
four of those popular TV shows that are getting DC and DC characters popularity from the actors that are portraying them. I feel like a failure on DC's part was not using those as a platform to step up and
Hughes.
step in the right direction.
I
Yep,
agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, even if you
It
look
was a
at
major missed opportunity there.
even if you look at the what is it, Shield on
Mm-hmm.
television, it's the same guy. It's not a different guy. He's the same guy that
Mm-hmm.
fought with the Avengers. He's the same guy, that his injury up there in the Avenger movie comes down into the TV show, and his injury, and Nick Nick Fury comes from
Mm-hmm.
the movie into the TV show as a cameo into the TV show. It's the same guy. So what that connection is, it goes back and forth, and then of course, you hope, and I would hope that the Defenders in the Netflix Marvel relationship, those same characters would end up in the movie screen if needed for those characterization in that film. That makes sense, and I also think it makes sense. And if you're even not a original cartoon or comic book fan, brings those people who are enjoying those movies into it even more because the storyline makes more sense. You've got this different Flash, you've got this different Batman, you've got this different um, just set of heroes here that don't coincide with the ones that are on television.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a separate thing, and you know, think that's what Marvel does better. So, Karen, you posed a question to me and Steve, and I still we don't have Steve's comment just yet, but you posed the question: what movies do you think, and or actor or actresses you think, or whatever directors, whatever, do you think should have been nominated, and what are those films and or people that you thought should actually be up there?
Yes, I did ask that question.
And I'm posing it back to you and back to
Oh,
Steve.
um, hmm. Well, for me, actually, I think the best picture category, it's fairly well represented there. I find it kind of interesting that Molly's Game is nowhere in evidence. There's no Best Director nomination for Aaron Sorkin, although he does get Best Screenplay, Best
Hmm.
Original Screenplay nomination, but no Best Director, no Best Picture, no Best Actress nomination from Jessica Chastain, and no Best Supporting Actor for Idris Elba. So interesting that the academy was not like loving that apparently, and I don't know how well it's done in the box office. um it's just it's just interesting, and I'm not saying it should have. I don't know because I haven't seen the movie, but I just find it interesting given the hype before the movie was released that at this point in time it's just sort of it's not really much of a factor.
Now, with you being saying that, and I'm just going to segue real quickly, and I apologize. But guess what else was nominated for the writing adaptive screenplay? Logan. So
That's
even
really
though,
Oh yeah,
interesting.
Scott Frank and James Marigold and Michael Green.
so obviously the Academy did see this and thought it was something about this film was viable, and there
Right.
it is. So I feel a little bit. It helps me feel more justified in my thought and my choice. Seeing that there. Did either of you guys, going back to Molly's Game, did either of you guys see it? I saw some of it. I haven't seen the whole movie.
I haven't
Um,
seen it.
but the part that I've seen, I liked. Of course, I like Jessica Chastain as an actress anyway, but and Idris Elba as well. But it's the storyline that's kind of cool in this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
how things transpire with this particular person who is a lot more innocent than guilty retrospectively to what they're saying about her, and that's the irony. But yet, when you deal with all these important people who are trying to be stay incognito and trying to move money around, that's when you get in trouble, and that's what's happening in this film, the essence of this film. And this is also based off of true occurrences, true events. So of course I like that kind of thing too. So yeah, I think Molly's Game is another one of those films like the one with Daniel Day Lewis. Um, uh, was it the
Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread? That's a late bloomer as far as it being out there for the audiences to see, and I think also the viewing audiences of the actors and the Academy seeing. Um, it's why it didn't probably get a big push.
Right.
It's
Hmm.
possible.
Now, there's a film that I saw, and I'll leave it alone, that I saw that I thought was one of the most entertaining films that I've seen all year. It also gets a nod in the editing, and in the Golden Globe, they actually had one of the actors as one of the best actors. But Baby Driver, I love that movie. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Academy Award worthy, man, maybe not as far as the best picture, but as far as entertainment factor, it was entertaining because of what was happening in the movie. It was fast paced, kept moving, and the music was wonderful. Great soundtrack. And the soundtrack is, they always say a soundtrack is really important for the film. It was important in the film. it was just as important, if not even slightly more important, in this film than the soundtrack was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, in this movie, the soundtrack set a tone for every scene.
Yep.
So I mean, it sets such a tone for every scene you were in. It played to the moods that the characters were feeling, and its presence was huge for
Huge.
what the movie was trying to accomplish. So yeah, no, it I feel like it should have been. It was one that I was going to talk about. It was one that I feel it's kind of being overshot, um, or kind of pushed under the rug. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
factly, by not being included more.
Right. So, any other film that you were looking at, Steve, that you thought should be up there in Best Picture and or actor or actress that you thought should actually be getting the nod as opposed to these nominees?
Actually, I'm not going to put it as high as Best Picture or Best Actor and Actress, even though I feel like the actor and actress in the movie did a great job with the roles that they portrayed. But I'm getting down here to cinematography,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Blade Runner 2049, you have Darkest Hour, you have Dunkirk, you have Shape of Water, and you have Mudbound, which are all really good movies. And the cinematography for them was amazing. But I feel one movie that's kind of that should be looked at on this list is Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I've talked about this movie before when we were doing the Golden Globes thing. It is one of the most beautiful movies that I have ever seen, in the way that it's done, in the way that it depicts um, each individual setting.
Mm-hmm.
It does such an amazing job with, and I feel not having it on this cinematography list is kind of a shame.
Mm.
And it's visually, now I've seen Blade Runner 2049, and Blade Runner, it looks like a Blade Runner movie. It looks like it's supposed to look.
Right.
Blade
Right.
Runner, Total Recall, whatever you want to call it, it looks like that movie that it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And Valerian does such a great, amazing job. When it needs to be dark, it's dark. When it needs to be bright and gorgeous, it does that amazingly. And then when it needs to interchange between one or the other, it's seamless in the way it moves from one to the other. It's not just like head jerking as it's moving, and the motions that it's going through, and the way the characters, the way the scene changes around the characters from point to point, just and character, what am I trying to think of? Character design
Mm-hmm.
also going into this, and the aliens from different worlds and everything like that. Just it's it. I feel like it's a shame that it's not in this category.
Now, ironically, the different films that are here, as you alluded to, we have Blade Runner, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, which was another visual um, that is worth Oscar nod, I think, because of all the beautiful colors in that, and the tonality of trying to emphasize and get us to understand the time frame too, because it feels very 50s. Um, but it's interesting. I saw Mudbound, and I've never seen a movie so interesting and so dark aesthetically, emphasizing mud. This movie had a lot of mud. And the interesting thing about the movie is no matter where they went, they wanted you to understand that this was um, uh, uh, a time just right after, this is in the 40s, right after World War II. And this town still looks like a town that's even older than that because of it's more in the rural South feel of this film. But the mud played like it was another character in the movie, and you can't get that feel because I'm sure that's what they wanted. You can't get that feel unless the cinematography is on point. I thought the cinematography was really on point in this film, and it brought me down like it was another person who was dredging through this whole situation because of how the colors were faded in a
Well, maybe
sense.
maybe that's why Rachel Morrison was nominated for best cinematography.
I think so because it really was like another character of the film, and I think that's important, and it's important for this film. This is a very good film too, by the way. I really like this film also, and the actors in it. It's a sad film, but it has its um, very very good points of reference and understanding about what was going on at the time. So yeah, good film, but good cinematography too. So I did agree that that should be in that nomination in my pictures. But anyway, that was just my segue through that. I thought that that was pretty good,
Cool.
and Shape of Water too. Like the cinematography there too. That was one of the good things of that movie too.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see how everything turns out March 4th.
Yeah, I think we'll revisit just prior to that if we can, and we're going to attempt to try to do that anyway, to see if we're right, um, to see if anything's changed in our opinion, and then of course try to do a follow-up show after the Oscars to see who actually won.
Yeah.
Um, that would be kind of fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us to take a look at the Oscars before the Oscars, the nominees, and different things that we have an affinity for, and our reaction to, even our conversation with each other about what we liked and didn't like. I think it's really good to be able to talk it over and see, you know, try to get our opinion, but also see what's the industry thinking about it. Why are these pictures nominated? And we'll get more into that, of course, as it gets closer and closer to the time. So, thanks again for hanging out here on A Real Point of View, ladies and gentlemen out there who are listening and viewing us here on A Real Point of View. Go to our archive channel for other episodes on of A Real Point of View and the different films that we've reviewed, and that'll be our YouTube channel under A Real Point of View. So thanks again, Karen. Thanks again, Steve, for your insight, and we appreciate your abilities to help us truly understand the scope and the platform that is movies. Um, have a wonderful night,
You're
everybody,
welcome.
and and thanks again. Take care from here at A Real Point of View. Peace out.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.